After we picked up a few big wins last year, we set the bar high for this season. Even though it was only our second years in FBS school, we wanted to make a bowl game, and I felt like the roster was built to compete in the Sun Belt. But our first opponent was number 8 Baylor, and our whole offense was completely different this year, with Latrell Palmer being the new running back and 3-star recruit Mark Fuller being our new quarterback. He had a big role to play, and he also had some new receivers to help him out in freshmen Sean Rivero and Isaiah Kegley. We got on the board first against Baylor, but that lead only lasted for a few plays because Jerry Bohannon hit Jackson Gleason in stride, and Niki Meredith let him run right by, so the Golden Bears tied up the game. By the second quarter, they were shoving the ball all down our throats, and we just kept taking it. There was nothing we could do to stop the run. However, freshman Isaiah Kegley was making a name for himself with catches like this, and the future looked bright for the Dukes. But we were going to have to put in a lot of work to be good in a few years, and it wouldn't be easy. Our offense was really struggling to move the ball, so we went into the fourth quarter down 10. Even though we probably wouldn't win this game, I felt like we could potentially reach a bowl game this season, but for that to happen, our defense would need to figure it out. And so would Mark Fuller. Fortunately, we were playing an FCS school the following week, and our recruiting board was full of great 3-star recruits. This was the best possible way we could have started the game against Missouri State, as sophomore halfback and kick returner KJ White took the opening kickoff all the way to the house. And I was hoping that our offense would figure out how to play together since we were facing a weaker opponent. That's exactly what happened when Mark Fuller connected with sophomore receiver Troy Lewis, and he ran with it for 47 yards while fighting into the end zone. Midway through the third quarter, senior running back Latrell Palmer faked out 3 Missouri State defenders with a filthy spin move, and then finished the play by taking it for 6. With 7 seconds left in the half, the Bears had a chance to finally get on the board, but their last play ran out the whole clock and they were stopped short of the end zone. By midway through the fourth quarter, it was still 28-0, and Mark Fuller put the game away with this dot to Kadarius Sharper. It felt good to dominate a game, but we had to travel to Oxford, and we were taking on NFL quarterback Blaine Gabbert's brother, Brett Gabbert. Fortunately, Mark Fuller came to play, and he was delivering dots throughout the first quarter, but it didn't matter because we couldn't figure out how to get any points on the board. However, with about 40 seconds left in the half, we were moving the ball down the field, and we were able to finally get into the end zone when Isaiah Kegley got wide open. But we needed to keep scoring, and that was going to be very difficult to do. The freshman quarterback was struggling to consistently make the right decision, and it was causing him to turn the ball over more than he should. Miami, Ohio also had Lil Mosey, and he would break tackle after tackle, which gave us a ton of problems, so we went down 6. And with 3 minutes left, the Redhawks were trying to run out the clock. However, they weren't able to do that, but they did burn a lot of it, so if we wanted any chance of winning the game, we would have to score fast, and KJ White was able to put us in great field positioning. But on fourth down, our receivers weren't getting open, and there was nothing Mark Fuller could do. So we fell to the Redhawks. But it was time to start Sun Belt Conference play, and everybody in our division besides Marshall sucked. This was a game we could actually win, but the rain was going to make it hard to do so. It was so wet, even Mark Fuller couldn't hold on to the ball. Fortunately, our defense forced a turnover as well, and Latrell Palmer ran it in. But the feeling of success didn't last as long as I would have liked, because senior quarterback Rhett Rodriguez delivered one of the best throws I'd ever seen to tie the game. Midway through the second quarter, Mark Fuller couldn't get the ball out of his hands, and when he finally did, sophomore Troy Lewis couldn't hold on to it. On 3rd and 20, Mark Fuller had a wide open receiver, but he sailed it over his head, so that possession alone should give you an idea of how difficult it would be to make a bowl game with James Madison. But that was still the goal for the season. We tied the game at the start of the second half, and by the fourth quarter, we had taken a 14-point lead on Louisiana Monroe. Our defense just needed to hold the Warhawks for one more minute, and when they were threatening to score, Josh Saggart picked off Rhett Rodriguez and took it out of the end zone. At first, it looked like he'd only make it a few yards, but seconds later, he broke free, and he was able to take it 107 yards to the house while setting a record for the longest interception return for a touchdown ever. That was an amazing ending to the game, and we had all the momentum going into our game against Louisiana Lafayette. The Raging Cajuns were the only ranked team in the Sun Belt, and we were looking to pull off the upset at home, but that would not be likely, especially because when we had a chance to make a big play, our receivers decided to forget how to catch, so at the beginning of the second quarter, we fell behind 14, and it continued to get worse. Isaiah Kegley continued to drop the ball over and over. He literally wasn't able to hold onto the ball if his life depended on it, so I took him out of the game. The Raging Cajuns kept scoring on us, but it was time for a comeback. And after Mark Fuller threw this bomb to Reggie Brown, we finally had some momentum. On the last play of the second quarter, Sean Rivero dropped this touchdown, and he also got injured, so that was a terrible ending to the half. Somehow Isaiah Kegley got subbed back into the game, and he dropped this easy touchdown, so I was getting really sick of the freshman. We weren't able to get anything going inside the red zone, but Troy Lewis didn't give up. He was throwing his body all over everybody to keep us in the game, and it paid off. We were finally able to get on the board in the fourth quarter. However, in the end, it didn't affect the result result of the game, but it showed me that Troy Lewis was willing to give 115%. I think we all knew how our game against Ohio State would go. Heisman winner Travion Henderson was running all over us, and I was regretting playing against the Buckeyes. It was worth it for the money, but it was crushing our confidence, and at the end of the day, we knew we didn't stand a chance. We left Ohio Stadium defeated, but I felt like a bowl game was still possible, and we had 13 recruits visiting this week. Therefore, this was our biggest game of the season, but freshman quarterback Mark Fuller was not off to a good start after he threw this ball with his eyes closed. Fortunately, our defense was solid, and when Mark Fuller threw this bomb over the Old Dominion defense, I couldn't believe it was Isaiah Kegley who made the catch and held onto it. He was actually playing really well, and he routed up the Monarch cornerback to put us up 4. By the third quarter, we were losing by 1, and the Duke's offensive line was letting Mark Fuller get run through. Despite that, he delivered a dot to tight end Quadarius Sharper for the first down, but he dropped it. Even though we weren't playing well, DJ Mack Jr. wasn't either, and we picked him off on this play, but on their next drive, he ran it in for the touchdown, and we needed to score fast if we wanted to stay in the game. With about 3 minutes left, the freshman hooked up with the other freshman, and he took it into the end zone to bring us within 2, but he dropped this ball, which would have tied the game. Fortunately, on third down, we stopped Old Dominion, and we had a chance to win it. So Mark Fuller rolled out and found wide receiver Reggie Brown on this big play to put us in field goal range, and after that, all we had to do was run out the clock. Kicker Camden Wise won us the game as time expired, and that meant that we got a lot of commits to the team. We were tied for first place in the conference, and if we beat Coastal Carolina, we would get back to being at 500, and our chances of making a bowl game would increase by a lot. But Mark Fuller started off with this throw straight to the other team, which turned into an easy 3. However, he wanted to redeem himself, so before you could blink, he let the ball fly, and Isaiah Kegley actually held onto it for a 65-yard touchdown. But at the end of the first quarter, Coastal Carolina took their lead back. A few minutes later, Mark Fuller found a wide-open Troy Lewis for a touchdown, except he dropped it. So instead of going up 4, we went down 10. After Mark Fuller threw an interception, we gave up another touchdown, and we went into the half down 17. To start the third quarter, Mark Fuller was trying his hardest to get us back in the game, but it just resulted in another turnover. However, we got the ball right back when Grayson McCall threw it straight to senior Q Reed. In result of that turnover, Mark Fuller used his cannon to loft a perfectly thrown ball over the defense to Isaiah Kegley, and the turnaround he was having this season was incredible. I was super excited to see how much the freshman would continue to improve, and we started the fourth down just 1 possession. You could tell that the cornerbacks feared Kegley as they backed off of him now, but it was incredible that we were back in this game. We hadn't seen much of Latrell Palmer all season, but he was slowly getting more involved by taking this halfback screen all the way down to the 1-yard line. And then Mark Fuller ran it in to tie the game. With less than 2 minutes left, we were getting the ball back, and sophomore KJ White faked out 3 defenders, broke 1 tackle, broke 2 tackles, and it looked like he had space to take it all the way. The sophomore running back had pulled off the greatest punt return ever. However, our defense gave up a touchdown, so we had 15 seconds to get a field goal. Somehow freshman wide receiver Joe Whitmore would run right by the deep safety, and fortunately, Mark Fuller was able to see him, and he hit him in stride for the go-ahead touchdown. I couldn't believe we actually won, but we were in another must-win game. And Appalachian State was tied for first place in our division with us, so not only was a bowl game on the line, but a spot in the conference championship was as well. Midway through the first quarter, Mountaineer quarterback Chase Bryce became unstoppable as he fought his way into the end zone, but he wasn't unstoppable for long. He threw this pass straight to junior cornerback Nikki Meredith, and with 26 seconds left in the half, Reggie Brown tied up the game with this catch. Midway through the third quarter, our defense came up clutch on fourth down, and then right after that, Mark Fuller found new star receiver Isaiah Kegley for a 43-yard play. A little bit later, Latrell Palmer gave us the lead, but Appalachian State tied the game back up, so we needed to score. And that's exactly what we did. Mark Fuller dropped this 44-yard bomb to tight end Kelly Mitchell so we could take our lead back, and then we finally got a break. The rain caused the ball to bounce around, and we picked it off, so all we had to do was run out the clock. And this run by Latrell Palmer ended the game, so we escaped with the win. But the following week, we were playing Georgia Southern, and if we won this game, we would clinch a bowl game. So we had to start off hot, but after they responded right back with 6, I knew it would be a long game. Early in the second quarter, Mark Fuller hooked up with Troy Lewis, but once again, Georgia Southern responded right back, and we were in a mini shootout. With 30 seconds left in the half, Mark Fuller got hit as he threw the ball, which led to this honestly impressive interception, but Georgia Southern wasn't smart with their play calling, so they didn't take a lead on us. And by the fourth quarter, it was still a tie game, but with 2 minutes left, we went down 3. And our offense needed to come alive if we wanted to become bowl eligible, but this bad read and failed swerve catch didn't go well, so we had to get another stop to stay in the game. Fortunately, we did, and it was remarkable that we were even in it still. On fourth down, Mark Fuller saw an open receiver, but he went to throw it and he couldn't get it out in time, so we fell to Georgia Southern. But we had to get it together because a spot in the conference championship was on the line. Marshall started the game by getting on the board first, and then we would have lost the ball in our first offensive play if Isaiah Kegley didn't recover the ball. The point is, we didn't start off playing well, but this interception from linebacker Q Reed changed everything as he flipped the whole game around. A few minutes later, Isaiah Kegley made this catch to tie up the game, but then Grant Wells took the Thundering Herd down the field to take the lead back. With 30 seconds left in the half, we were trying our hardest to break down Marshall's defense and get into field goal range. However, Mark Fuller threw the ball straight to Stephon Gilmore's brother, so unfortunately, we started the second half down by 1 possession. Mark Fuller faked out everybody with this play action, and Stephon Gilmore's brother got burnt by Reggie Brown for this 32-yard pass. And then a minute later, he found Reggie Brown again to tie up the game. But that didn't last long as Grant Wells ran into the end zone a couple minutes later. It has been a while since you heard the name Latrell Palmer, but when he juked out 3 defenders and then broke another tackle, the highlight had to make the cut. He was playing insanely well, and he finished off the drive with this run. After Marshall scored 7 and took the lead on us, we had a minute and a half to send the game to overtime, but on 4th down, Reggie Brown couldn't hold on to it, so we missed out on the conference championship. But we were playing 1-9 Georgia State, and we had to win this game if we wanted to make a bowl game. The good thing was that this would be senior Latrell Palmer's last game ever if we lost, so he was playing really well to keep his career alive, and he got us on the board early. But unfortunately, Georgia State responded back at the start of the second quarter, and with a minute left in the half, we found ourselves down 10, so we had to start scoring fast. And that is exactly what we did, getting into the end zone seconds later. By the end of the third quarter, we were still down by 3, and it was actually terrifying how inaccurate Mark Fuller was sometimes. I was hoping he would improve on that this offseason. Unfortunately, we fell behind 2 possessions on this play, but we weren't completely out of it yet. Mark Fuller threw this bomb to senior wide receiver Reggie Brown, and he took it all the way down to the Georgia State 9. Sean Rivero caught this touchdown on the next play, but we didn't recover the onside kick, so we had to stop Georgia State's running game. That is exactly what we were able to do, and then Georgia State missed this kick to take a 6-point lead, so we had 30 seconds left to get in field goal range, but instead, Mark Fuller went for all the glory and threw a bomb to Isaiah Kegley. He came down with it, and he ran into the end zone untouched, so we somehow had clinched a bowl game. Miami's Henry Parrish won the Heisman, and the college football playoffs were set. Despite winning 6 games, we somehow didn't get a bowl, so that was disappointing. Anyway, Ohio State beat USC, and Penn State beat Alabama, so the national championship was set, and Penn State won it all. Mark Fuller played terrible in his first year, but Isaiah Kegley stood out from the other receivers, and we were ready for year number 3.